Hi and welcome to Thursdays at 3 with Alice. Today we are going to be making pumpkin crumb cake muffins. And if you've ever had my Nana's crumb cake, which is absolutely delicious, it's pretty good as well. So you definitely are going to need your can of pumpkin, and so we're going to do that today. And we're going to start with a base, which is kind of like a really moist cake. So I can't wait for you to try it, and we'll get those muffins going. And then maybe if you live nearby, you want to stop by afterwards. So we'll see. So if you are baking challenged, this could be really fun for you. It's not going to be a 30-second tasty video where everything gets thrown in. So you can watch this later and cook with me, bake with me if you want, or you can just enjoy and pretend you can smell the delicious pumpkin. So here we go. Hey, Jessica Joy. So this recipe calls for us to start with flour. And if you have never been told this, I'm telling you right now, you do not just scoop up flour. That's not how it works. You have to kind of spoon the flour in and then measure off the top. And if I were really like some fancy baker, I would weigh the flour, but I'm not going to. So we need a cup and 3/4. These handy dandy Pampered Chef measuring cups go together, and they even come with this fancy tool which allows you to even out the top of your flour. So we're going to start with 1 3/4 flour. Most any cake, brownie, whatever is going to start with flour. We need a little bit of baking soda. Let me see, we need a teaspoon of baking soda. That you can definitely scoop. There's no big deal to that, but let me just scooch it over so you can see. It's so funny. I never wanted to forget what it was, so I just cut the box up, and you just scooch that. I think I got some chunks in there. You just scooch it. So, and a lot of those recipes call for you to do the flour in one bowl and the wet ingredients in the other. So that's what we're going to do today. So then we need 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. And if you're watching, can you tell me if you are a fan of pumpkin spice lattes? Because that seems to be the thing. I'm not really a coffee drinker, but I'm interested to know if you are a pumpkin spice latte fan, because you're really going to enjoy the next part. So cinnamon, because look what's coming up. Pumpkin pie spice. I believe this is cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, allspice, and a little bit of stuff to keep it going. So we're going to put just a teaspoon of that into our recipe. And half a teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to move on to our wet ingredients. And here's the thing, salt, pretty, I guess Jessica's not a pumpkin spice latte fan. Salt's not one of those things you want to overdo, so I tend to kind of even it out over the sink, or you can just have an extra bowl right there, which is what I have. So we're going to throw some salt in there. And now we're on to the wet ingredients. Let's see if I can point the camera. And hi, by the way. Let's see if I can just do it over there a little bit more. So this part, oh, you know what? Let me back up. I forgot. You're supposed to whisk those flavors together before you bring it. So a couple things to note about this recipe. It specifically called for the eggs and the milk to be at room temperature. I don't know why. This came from Sally's baking addiction. It's not Alice. That's what they call for. So just FYI, if you're going to make the recipe, really try and set your stuff out. Or last night when I was kind of thinking about it, I thought, well, I'll just put it in some warm water today. So that's kind of what I did a little bit later. So this calls for half a cup of oil. Everything is like a half a cup at this point. Half a cup of sugar. And sugar, you can just scoop. It doesn't have the same properties as the flour. Did I lock it in there? No? What did I do with it? Oh well, gonna have to go with a knife because I don't remember what I did with the thing. And a half a cup of brown sugar. Yum. There we go. We're gonna need that in just a little bit. And then we definitely need some some pumpkin puree, and I'm gonna use our Pampered Chef can opener that we know just takes the top right off the cans, so we don't have to worry about any, I don't know, just dirt, whatever, getting into your food because you cut through the top of the can. On a standard soup can, it's about 8 to 10 times around. I can feel it loosen up, pop it, ta-da! So put that over here. And then I'm going to use, I don't know, for those of you who've been longtime Pampered Chef fans, the measure-all cup comes in just 1 cup now. So we're going to use that in the 1 cup capacity. We're going to go ahead and put some pumpkin in there. Just to measure it right. There we go. So it calls for 1.5 cups. I'm going to pull it back down to, I don't know, for those of you who aren't familiar with this cup, this is how it looks. I can smell some pumpkin now, let me tell you. These pumpkin crumb muffins are so good. So we're just going to mix them up, and then we're going to make some topping. So we've got that. And then we need 1/4 cup of milk. Did that. Let me get this mixed up just a little bit. And then remember, those eggs are supposed to be room temperature. If anybody knows why the eggs need to be room temperature because you're a better baker than I am, can you just leave a comment and tell us why? Because I don't exactly know. Okay. So one of the very specific things that this recipe said was to make sure when you mix it together that there are no flour pockets left. And what she meant by that is once you start to put a liquid with flour, you know, it just kind of balls up. So you just have to make sure when you're mixing it that it, once you get done, I'll show you a little trick that I learned. So I'm just mixing it, right, and the little pockets are forming, but I want it to be a little bit more like a cake mix. So sometimes you have to stir a little bit harder. I will tell you, benefit of these Pampered Chef scrapers is that they really take the sides of the bowl and clean it off for you. And just so you can see, for those of you who really aren't bakers, see how there's kind of like just little balls was inside the flour? What I learned a long time ago is if you will push the mix up against the side, that really helps get rid of those pockets of whatever it is you're trying to incorporate into your recipe. So that's just a little trick that I learned. And you know what? So what if one of your little crumb cake muffins has a flour pocket in it, if you're going to give this recipe a try? Ta-da! Pumpkin. So here we are. We're pretty fluid. We're ready to go. The next thing we have to do, which is the most delicious part, are make the crumbs. And I think you'll be very surprised how easy it is to make these crumbs. So we're going to go back because I did tell you it's a pumpkin crumb cake muffin, not just a pumpkin muffin. And I'm not usually a pumpkin fan, but these, I think they're going to be good. So we needed 3/4 cup of flour, 1/4 cup. Ooh, and remember I did tell you they come in all these different sizes. 1/4 cup of white sugar, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, ooh, and we get another little bit of pumpkin spice. I guess this year I'm going to get excited about pumpkin spice. So 1 teaspoon pumpkin spice. All right, are you ready for the magic? Here comes. You know what? I'm going to use the whisk for this because this worked out really well. We're going to add melted butter. I kind of feel like Paula Deen today. Hey, Daisy. So we are just gonna work in this butter until it makes lots of delicious crumbs. See, if yours looks like that, you're on the right path. So when you go to start making it, you'll see. And it's really not meant to be mixed. It's more meant to be like a crumbly thing. So you just keep working it. And honestly, when I make my coffee cake at the holidays, if my crumbs don't look quite right, because we live in Florida and we have a different amount of humidity than other parts of the country, if my crumbs aren't looking right, I just keep sprinkling a little bit of flour in there. And because it has a lot of sugar in it, you can't really taste. So I'm not sure the whisk was meant to be jammed up with my crumb topping. There we go. So there you go. Everybody can make crumbs. If you want it just a little bit more crumbly, you can feel free to add a little bit of flour, but I don't think it needs it. I think we're going to be in good shape. The other thing that I think is interesting is this recipe calls for you to use 2 muffin pans because it does 2 coffee cake. It does 2 pans worth to make 15 cupcakes. So I'm not gonna, let's see, maybe I could. So I'll just tell you really quick. I've had the same, maybe I should let you see my face. I have had this same medium scoop probably since 1995, 96, whenever I started buying Pampered Chef. This one is 2 tablespoons. It's our medium scoop. It's the most popular. I use it anytime I'm doing the mini muffin pan or the regular size muffin pan because I just like it. I've had it for so long. But we sell 3 different sizes, and how they're determined, this is one, the small one is 1 tablespoon. This is 2 tablespoons, and then the large one is 3 tablespoons, which is the exact size you need to fill a muffin cup. So I'm gonna give up the medium scoop today, and I'm gonna go ahead and use the large one. So here we go. Let's see how fast I can do this. Dun, 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 dun. And just so you know, your video is not on fast forward. And I'm hopefully not dripping everywhere, which tends to happen with muffin mix, right? Look at that! The recipe did not lie. Wow. And you know what? I kind of shorted this cup. Look at that. Okay, did anybody time me? I think that was 2 minutes, if that. So the next fun part, this is gonna take a lot of high-tech tools from your kitchen, known as kitchen spoons. So I'm just gonna try and chop these up a little, make them a tad bit smaller, but basically 1 spoonful. And then the recipe calls for you to press the crumbs into the batter. And here's the funny part. The recipe calls for you to bake them at 425 for about 5 minutes, which I think is what hardens up the crumbs on top. And then you bake it the rest of the 15 minutes in the regular, like 350 oven. Oh, how I wish everybody could be here to smell them, to taste them. If you live in the Winter Springs area, just come on by. Yum. Getting down to the end, making a mess here. Let's throw some more crumbs on there. And then it says to smash it in, so that's what I'm doing. Ta-da! All right, we'll worry about that later. Oh yeah, Daisy, I will bring you some samples tonight. So this recipe now goes in the oven, like I said, 5 minutes at 425, and then another probably 15 minutes at 350. So give me 1 second, I'm gonna throw those over there. And let me just stop a minute and do a little PSA. I don't know why it's fuzzy all of a sudden. We also have the mini muffin pan, and the recipe said if you wanted to do it as minis because you're going to take them somewhere, or maybe you just want to eat a little smaller portion, it's only about 8 to 10 minutes in the mini muffin pan, and that's the perfect size for the small scoop. So we often sell that together because they just go together. So now I'm ready for some magic, which means, ta-da-da-da, you ready? Voila! We already have some pumpkin crumb cake muffins made. Ta-da! There were a few more, but I gave them away today. So what we're gonna do is make the icing, and then I'm hoping it's gonna look exactly like the picture. So all I did was put together 3/4 of a cup, yeah, 5 to scraper, 3/4 of a cup of confectioner sugar, and then it calls for 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. What did I do with my little cup from the milk? Here we go. So we need 2 tablespoons. I love this little cup. I'm sorry we don't sell it anymore. I think everybody needs it. Didn't know what happened. Maybe I haven't used my maple syrup in a while. All right, so here goes the maple syrup. And then 2 tablespoons of milk. And in my experience, let me caution you that you don't want to just dump the milk in there. The milk is better drizzled, because as you work it, you'll see that if you were to just dump all the milk in there, you can't really control the consistency. But if you'll stop and just work the milk in, then you'll know. And again, that whole trick about pushing something up against the side, that's going to help your, whatever you're mixing, the frosting, the batter, that's going to help break it down a little bit faster. So I felt pretty confident judging on the capacity of this frosting, this glaze, that I wasn't overdoing it with the milk, because I see lots of confectioner sugar still in there. You know what? I'll be right back. I feel like I need something else. Ha ha! Take that, scraper. I need to break those chunks up. Those powdered sugar chunks are not my friend today, but I beat them with my little whisk. All right, so now I have a much better smooth consistency. Everybody see that? So now we're gonna go and add it as a drizzle. You know what, I wonder if I could. Now I'm just off the cuff here, people. All right, are you ready for the finished product? Dun, 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 dun. That is a lot easier to hold this little cup than to try and hold that bowl and get any kind of a, oh my goodness. This looks so delicious. Huh, just scoop some right up there. It is definitely pumpkin season in the Goodell house today. Guess it might be time to put out some pumpkins. So if you're gonna glaze all of them, I would highly recommend doing it with a tray, because then you'll be able to just lift these right off. So let's see if you can see it up close. Let me grab the phone, because I love to end with a plating shot. Isn't that so delicious looking with that glaze? And then if I wanted to, I could just put them in the fridge and they'd harden up pretty quick, but I think it's gonna be good enough. And if you really wanted to, you could save on a few calories and just maybe sprinkle them with some powdered sugar or mix a little pumpkin spice with some powdered sugar, and that would probably be really good. So there's my beep. I'll be right back. And now the other set of muffins is cooking for about 15-16 minutes. So thanks for watching today, and thanks for watching the replay. I'll go ahead and post the link to where I found this recipe, but you know what? Everyone needs an Alice. So I figured out the ins and outs of the pumpkin recipe so you don't have to. And again, if you're baking, or really cooking, but baking challenge, you can just make this recipe along with me. Just hit it on the replay. So thanks. Find me on YouTube or like my business page, which is Everyone Needs an Alice. Have a great day.